Welcome to the Runna Podcast. I'm Ben, head coach.
And I'm Anya, international marathon runner. And we're proud to be the #1 rated running coaching service worldwide.
We'll be having truly insightful conversation with truly inspirational guests, as well as bringing you tips and tricks for runners of all abilities.
Today on the podcast, we spoke to parkrun founder Paul Sinton-Hewitt, CBE. This really is a deep dive into where parkrun started, how it's got to where it is today, and the future of it. Enjoy the episode. Hi Paul, thanks for coming in. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here with Runna.
No, we really appreciate it. And obviously Ben and I are lovers of parkrun a lot of the weekends of the year, so we're really excited to chat to you. I guess we'll start at the beginning. How did running become such a big part of your life?
It goes back right to the beginning, really. I think as a young person, I had a really dark upbringing. The book that I've just about to launch covers this. I'm not going to really go into it, but it's a bit tragic, really. And I think I was dealt a very bad hand. And as a result, I ended up with what I just thought were mood swings. One minute I was happy and the next minute I wasn't. And I think that that made for very complicated relationships with my brothers, my sister, with friends. I didn't really know much about how life would turn out in those early days. I just took one step ahead, and you're guided by your teachers, you're guided by whoever. But I think around teenagehood, I was at a boarding school, and I realized that I wasn't bad at running. I wasn't good, I wasn't winning, but I was there to second, third, or something. And the thing about running was that for that moment, I had my own space. It was all about me. If I really wanted to go really hard, I could, and I could kill myself, or I could just take it easy. But the point was that I had that peace, that silence, that ability to think about what was going on in my life. So I think it was high school, 800 meters, 3,000 meters cross country. And the cross country in particular, I was allowed to leave the school grounds and go and run around the village, and that freedom was extraordinary for me at that time, and so I took it, and that was the beginning.
And you then ran all the way through, or you stopped?
I think like most children leaving school, you think there's so much more to life, partying, girlfriends, all that sort of stuff. So there was a period when it disappeared, although I don't think I ever properly stopped. I would go for a run occasionally. Around 22, I had a young family, and I knew I needed to do something about this. So, I'd experienced the odd mood swing, and I'd go for a run, and I would feel that I would come back to a level playing field. I joined a running club, and I started to focus on road running. And the regularity of running with other people in a club and so on, I learned to become quite competitive. I learned what other people were doing. It became quite a normal thing. And so then I started to set sights. And I remember, I think I ran my first marathon in Johannesburg. It was called the Johannesburg Nashua. There used to be a photocopier called Nashua. And this was in 1980, and I had no clue about a marathon, but I ran it in 3 hours and 15 with a few stops. And I thought to myself, well, that's not too bad. I probably can improve on that. And that was the beginning. And then I started to focus on 10K, 15K, half marathons, which led me to other things.
I guess that period of your life where you were saying that maybe you didn't run as much and you didn't have, I guess, the structures, maybe a club, or I'm thinking about when I'm feeling less motivated or my friendship group are, we still go to parkrun. It's almost like that would have been this great through line had it been there, and maybe why it was such a glaring opportunity of something to go on to build.
I wish I had parkrun in my youth. When I was a young father, it would have been something I could have done with my children. I think the bonds between myself and my children would have been completely different to what they are today had parkrun been there. But, the fact that it's every single week, that it's so simple, it's free, there's no obligation to do anything in particular other than have a good time. I think I would have become addicted. I probably would have been one of the statos. I would have been looking to cover every single country and get every part of the alphabet, and that would have been probably my youthful parkrun experience. These days, it very much is a part of my life. I can't really imagine not waking up on a Saturday and thinking, okay, where am I going this week? I still treat it like it's a very simple thing. It's not something that I need to put much effort into. I don't have to have forethought or foresight. I'm not addicted to it. So if I do travel to a country that doesn't have a parkrun, it doesn't kill me. But if I do go to a country that has one, then of course I'm going to sneak one in. I'm going to try and do it. And it's as much because of what happens at those parkruns than the running. For me, running, I think, is a thing of the past now. I'm enjoying walking and volunteering, but it's that camaraderie that we get, that that little injection of life I get on a Saturday morning, which does turn my weekend. It can actually make the difference between a good and a bad weekend.
And so, tell us about why you started, and tell us about the first time in Bushy Park and the first parkrun.
So just before I started, I was on target to run my best ever marathon. I was 42 years old. I was 44 years old. When I was 42, I had run a test marathon, Kingston Marathon, in 2 hours and 42, and I had come third. And that really let me believe that I could then improve my best ever time, which happens to be 2:36. I thought I could run a 2.5 hour marathon. I'm older, I'm wiser, I know how to plan, I can be quite logical about the whole thing, the intelligence of nutrition, all that sort of, everything was on and up. And I started to build for it, and I had all these goals that I would knock off in terms of getting to the London Marathon 2004. And I was out running a competitive event between two clubs in London, and it was called a mob match. It was cross country. I took my dog with me, which I probably wasn't supposed to do, but we were running off the lead through the cabbage patch. I had to make a right-hand turn through a hedge. And as I turned, my dog jumped in front of me, and I tripped and fell. I had a somersaulted. And whatever weaknesses were in my body at the time were just completely exposed. Hurt myself really badly. I had already achieved all the things I wanted to do. So I'd run the Valentine's Day, I think it's 15K. I'd run that in something like, is it Valentine's 15? It's 15. I can't remember, but I was on target. And then I'd run the Windsor half in 75. I'd come 10th. And I had one more target, which was Bath. And I wanted to run it in under 73. If I run it in 73, then I was on my way to London. Anyway, I went to Bath, which just happened this weekend, by the way.
Yeah.
So this is 2004. I went to Bath injured, and I killed myself. I absolutely ran out of my socks. I ran a 72 and a bit half marathon. But when I finished, I couldn't get off the ground, couldn't walk to the car. Someone had to drive me home. And I went for the assessment and so on. And the physio just said, yeah, if you ever run again, you'll be lucky. But basically, you got 2 years out. And what that meant was that everything that I built in my life in terms of structure around my own well-being, which is meet my running mates, go for a run, go for a coffee, go to the club, all those things were now, well, not taken away, but not as exciting or interesting to me anymore. And I thought, I have to find a different way to see my friends. And so I started talking to people about this is something I wanted to do. I had done these time trials in South Africa before, and I thought this is what I can do. It doesn't exist in this country. I'll just put on a free weekly timed race for fast runners in a park. I won't get permission. I'm not, it's just people running in the park. I don't have to do any of that stuff. And I'm not intending on having a company or a website or anything. It's just, my mates running, and I'll record the times and I'll tell them how they're doing. And I promised to everyone I would be there every single week. And so in October 2004, that first weekend, I had invited 2 running clubs to attend, 13 people pitched, 5 volunteers pitched, and we ran that event. And I was prepared to do everything myself. We went for coffee afterwards. I did a quick Excel spreadsheet of the results, and basically that was the format. And I had promised that I would be there every single week. And so that was the promise, and that was what I was going to do. I got to see some friends. We went for coffee. So things were sort of going back in the right direction in terms of getting that social thing going again. 13 runners turned to 14 the next week, and then 12. And by the end of the year, we were up to about 25. Happened that Christmas was on a Saturday, and I promised I'd be there every Saturday. And so on Christmas Day and on New Year's Day that year, we started a tradition that we would always be in the park on a Saturday. And so it goes. It took a very, very long time before I did my second park run. I was convinced to do that. I didn't really want to do it. And when I had to make changes to the software to make that happen. But when I did that on that day, I realized that if I can do 2, then I can do 3. And if I can do 3, then I can do 100. So it became clear to me that the opportunity at that point, 2007, that we could then expand. It was never really in my mission to expand. I felt it very, very simple, free 5K timed run. Anybody could do it, and I wasn't looking to dominate the running scene. I wasn't looking to build a base of people that nobody else could have access to or anything like that. I wasn't trying to be competitive. I just wanted people to be enjoying what I was enjoying, which is this being outdoors, being social, and being active. And so we started to work on those principles. We started to work on how's this going to work? How can we replicate it? What would we do? We would need volunteers. So 2007 was the first time we recognized that we couldn't do this without volunteers. Up until that time, I was going down and people were just coming to help me. They were never on a list. They were never planned. It just happened. So that's the beginnings of parkrun, and where we find ourselves now, we're 2,500 events around 22 odd countries, about 400,000 people taking part every single week. So now we've got to be a lot more efficient, a lot more professional, a lot more careful. Safeguarding's an issue, etc. And as a result, we've had to form a proper company. It's a charity now. Our goal is health and well-being. Definitely not competition, although we love it when people compete. So we're not saying parkrun is not about competition. We are saying parkrun's ethos is a health and well-being. That's our agenda. And as a result, we will give the individual all they need to make their own decisions about how they are performing. But we don't need to do that in a broad sense.
I think so much of the way parkrun's grown after this small idea really is the case that the idea was so strong that it has grown because it was the formula that works, and it's not something that's needed you to build a great sales team to go and sell it. It makes the week or the weekend of the people who engage that 13, and that's transpired into now being millions of people.
There are plenty of things that you take for granted right from the word go, which turn out to be absolute gems, key selling points, things that make us special. The fact that it's free, the fact that it's volunteer-led. You'd think that that's a problem. Actually, it's an absolute diamond for those communities. These people are coming out saying, I want to do something for my community. I want to do it for my friends. I want to do it for the people I know. And I want to turn my village into a healthy village. And we give them ownership and accountability. And so they're not doing it for some company. They're doing it for themselves, and they're doing it for their friends, and they're doing it for their community. And it's an absolute, such a winner.
I think even then when you run past a parkrun volunteer, it's a different feeling to running past a marshal at an event where maybe they're paid, because you know that person is simply there because they are keen to help other people live a healthier, happier life. And I think like they're probably standing in the rain and cold, and they've been there from 8:30. Yeah. And I think like that's why it's synonymous just to run past and say thank you, Marshall, which isn't the voice that you hear when you go through a major marathon and run past every steward.
It's a pity because those volunteers at those major marathons are volunteers too. So I've always had this thing in my heart. When I'm running down the street and I see another runner, I always want to greet them. And I have friends who've made it a mission in their life to actually catch their eye, and every single run they want to do at least 5 connected hellos. And it's the same. I mean, running is an incredible sport. It's an incredible equalizer for us all, and it does fantastic thing for community. And I think that should transcend all events, including the high-paid events, because after all, it wouldn't happen if it weren't for the fact that we came together to make it happen.
Yeah. How did you navigate the rapid growth of parkrun, from it going from just a group of your mates to it being like across the country?
From the start, my focus was on what I call self-service. So I acknowledged that I couldn't do it all myself, and I also acknowledged that we would never be wealthy enough to have a big team, and that the only way this would happen would be through the love and the commitment of volunteers. And we have a range of volunteers in our organization. We have those who pitch up once a year, those who pitch up every single week. Then we have what we call our ambassadors, who are the people who are pseudo-employees. They negotiate with council, they look at the course, they keep the teams happy, and they work with the team, the parkrun team. And then, of course, we have employees. The key, right from the word go, was giving them the tools so that they could do it themselves, giving them the tools which would help govern how they did it, because an absolute imperative is that parkrun needs to always be parkrun. No matter where you go in the world, that feel has to be the same. So there's certain things you can't do. You can't have a race clock. You just can't. Even if it was given to you, we would prevent them from using it because it's just not within our ethos. We could have had chip timing. I tested it 20 years ago, and it was fine. We could have rolled it out. But we decided at the time that the contract we want with our park runners is one of communication, one of social engagement. So that queue for people scanning is something we planned. It's not, we don't want to be so efficient that just doesn't happen. So I think it comes back to, and again, right now at the heart of parkrun, we know that the most important thing in the whole of parkrun world are the people who make it happen and the people who participate. So it's the events. And if Parkrun HQ was never, ever, ever, ever talked about again, that would be fine by me. We have to make sure that we continue to enable our people to be accountable, to be responsible, to be communicated with, etc., etc. So those are the key things that we need to focus on going forward.
Yeah, I just think it's your mindset, which is why it's been so successful, parkrun, because so many people would be like, let's start charging for it. Yeah. Let's make it bigger, better. Let's make it a 10K. Let's make it a half marathon. Let's see how we can scale this. But it's the simplicity of parkrun why.
Isn't it amazing if we'd taken £1 off every person, every finisher, there would be £100 million in the bank. That's just absurd. No, in my personal life, I'm very careful about what lines I cross over and which ones I don't. And I've always been more on the right side than on the wrong. I try not to make too many mistakes. And when it came to parkrun, I just couldn't see how we would ever ask a participant to pay something. Right now, parkrun's future is dependent on revenue, and we have our own kit that, the parkrun apricot brand, which we share with our participants, and I really want them to buy it, because the more they buy that kit, the stronger we become, the more we can expand, the more we can deliver this health pill to the people who haven't got it. So it is a difficult thing to square. If you're running a company, you need to be able to make sure that you can pay the salaries and that you can keep the wheels running and so on. So money is vital. We're a charity, and of course people can be very generous if they want to, and that would help. But when it comes to that contract that we have in the park, each individual participant needs to be aware of how they behave, because that contract is really, really key. Volunteers are delivering these events. We want them to be as happy and as joyful as possible, and it just takes one individual to step over a line and it can be a problem.
I think with something that's grown in the way that it has, and like you said, it's touched hundreds of millions of people, do you still realise the impact it has to the individual, whereby it's so easy to look at these enormous numbers, but even for me, anecdotally, my friendship group, we're all obsessed. My best friend's mum, she's a volunteer week in, week out, and that's given her purpose when she can no longer run. Are you still able to realise the impact it has on the individual, despite there being so many of them?
Truthfully, the numbers are mind-blowing, so I don't try and focus on them at all. I know them, and I get them wrong quite a lot, but no, for me, it's the impact. It's the individual impact. I get, every single week, I'll get someone come to me and tell me that their life's changed. And for the most part, it's just because we created something that they could be a part of. So they weren't struggling with health, or they weren't struggling with anything in particular, but they've got the social group and they feel a part of it, and they've made friends. And that is extraordinary. It's a bit like church. People say that parkrun's a bit like church. It is. We've replaced something that was really strong maybe 100 or 150 years ago. But there are those other stories where people's lives have truly been transformed. A diabetic who's now a regular runner, and he's no longer diabetic. Not just because of parkrun, because his doctor helped him do that as well. So, but mostly through their own initiative, their own decision to take that first step. They've joined a community which has made a huge difference. I've seen the most incredible stories, people's lives turned. I've seen extended family, people who don't run, but they just happen to be part of the extended family of those who are running, who have had complete turnaround in their lives. So I think that's what's important. I'm not really that bothered about the super quick people who can, they're doing very well already. They've got all these races they can go and run, and they can set their targets and beat them, and they can do that on properly measured courses, and I think that that's absolutely brilliant. They're the people who finish and go pretty quickly. It's everybody after them who find that space in the park, in the queue, or meeting their friends and their family, that's the real gem of parkrun. That's where the real work is done. The 40-minute runner and the 50-minute runner, they are spending much more time working on their health than the 15-minute runner.
Yeah. Well, I think there's such a big part of running, which is that it's infectious. If you run, you got to tell your friends about it, because it's not something that you can keep a secret. And I think that's what's led to the organic growth. But I think, talking about the individual, anecdotally, I went to do one of the parkruns in Brighton on the weekend before doing the Brighton half, and the announcer, before we got started, announced a special, not milestone, but I guess a special pair of attendees who had got married the day before and were celebrating their new wedding by going to parkrun, and they'd met at parkrun, which is just that is an example of two people who came along to the equivalent of your 13-person coffee, met their forever person, and now they get to share it with 300-400, I don't know how many hundred it was in the park that day, and they'll do that every week. And I think like that is one of all of these people's lives that have been affected by it, and I think that is just the power of everything that you said,
it's
social
lovely.
and endorphins and exercise.
Equally, we're at the other end of life for some people, and I've been to somebody's funeral last week who was an event director for many, many years, and our fellow who started the very first parkrun in Brighton, he died last week, and we're going to his wake as well. But it'll be filled with love, and it'll be filled with parkrun. These are all extraordinary people, and they're all making their mark, and they're leaving their legacy, and that's what the world should be like.
I do think the analogy to church is a really interesting one, because I think the race director is probably, like you said, 50 years ago, maybe the pastor or the vicar who would have been in your local church, and it probably is the same status you get in the community, which is that they are doing a role model and someone that genuinely helps people, but the thing in the middle of it is not an old building and a Bible, it's outside and go running.
Exactly. Brilliant.
And you got a CBE. You were recognised for making this impact in the community and helping like grassroots sports. Well, one, can you tell us about that? And two, I think, it is so amazing because so many people grow up without like athletics being a big part of their upbringing, but they just see parkrun as this like constant every weekend. And I do think it must have brought so many people into the sport who just didn't know about it before.
Yeah, and extraordinary. So I didn't ever start this journey thinking that there would ever be any kind of plaudits. I really just wanted to do it for myself and my friends. So when the CBE came along, I couldn't really believe it. My wife was away in Mallorca on one of these training trips, and I was sat at my desk doing parkrun stuff, and a letter arrived, and it looked different to most letters, and so I didn't think much. But a day or so later, I opened it, and then I read it, and I thought, oh my God, this is an honor. And I didn't even read it properly. I just read it was an honor, and I thought, my wife is she's not an anti-royalist, but she's not a royalist, and I thought, what do I do? Anyway, before I could even discuss it with her, I signed the letter and posted it back, accepting the award. It is extraordinary. In fact, you asked me to bring some things in, and I brought two things in to show you, and this was one of them, which is the CBE medal.
Wow!
And I mean, have a look. It's
amazing.
It just feels bizarre that I should be the recipient of such an award. It is incredible and lovely, and it's a great honor to be the recipient of it on behalf of all parkrun volunteers.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
I think the impact, definitely is a way to quantify the impact to some extent, but I think an award like that isn't anything on that one diabetic's life that you changed, and there's tens of thousands of people in that situation, and so many others.
And the nice thing about it was 2014, so 10 years in, and we're another 10 years along, and of course it's grown extraordinary, and it'll continue to do so. So we're sort of the smallest we'll ever be, and that is what mind-boggling.
Yeah.
You think about the millions of people whose lives can still be affected, who can still get this little health pill, and I mean that's quite something.
You could make something as big as religion. Maybe that's a bit dangerous if we talk about it like that. I couldn't not share my personal anecdote. So I used to work, and I spent 2 years working at a hotel in Greece, and I ran the fitness department.
Okay.
And within that, I had a fitness timetable, morning runs, we'd had cycle tours, fitness classes. And I realised that I was missing out on parkrun. So I set up not a parkrun.
Okay.
It wasn't a parkrun, but it was Saturday morning, 9 a.m, and it was 5K.
Fantastic.
And I would cycle with a big flamingo 2.5K from the hotel, and I'd put it on a lamppost, like a post that I could put it on. It didn't blow away, and then everyone would set off from a crack in the road, and they would run to the flamingo, around the flamingo and back, and I'd time them with I think I never got more than about 12 guests on the hotel, but I did that every week. And the funny thing is, one of the guests, Katie, who stayed at the hotel, she is now a parkrun director. She lives in Switzerland, but there's no parkruns in Switzerland, so she drives over the border to Germany and
really?
will set up a park run as the race director in Germany every week. And I think like the connection there is, I fell in love with it in London. Couldn't leave it alone when I'm living at this remote island in Greece, and now that's that effect, and that will give this health pill to a few people.
Many park runs started that way, so it's. I think we have an obligation to help people like you who are in that situation to get it off the ground. Yeah. Obviously, there are all sorts of constraints, but if we can help you to do that, then we should.
Well, there's the what's left behind is a segment on Strava that I've made.
There you go.
So if anyone goes to the Levant Hotel in Rhodes, there's a parkrun 5K segment on Strava.
Fantastic.
But I think the challenge that I knew when I was running the hotel there was that the parkrun would have to be year round. And this hotel's only open 8 months of the year.
Yep.
So I knew it would never become an official parkrun.
That's why our Iceland parkrun stopped, because it couldn't see it through the winter.
Because it's pitch black in the winter. Yeah. One stat I'd love to call out before we maybe move on to the second half of the podcast, but am I right in thinking that every year the average time that people finish their parkrun in gets slower?
Yeah.
And that's an amazing statistic, but why do you care so much about that?
Well, what it means is that more and more people are finding their way into walking or running. And it's not specifically about fast people. Mm-hmm. We love fast people, and they're all very welcome. But what we're doing, it's a bit like a pyramid, where at the very top you've got Josh Kerr and those people, but at the bottom you have the nursery school. And parkrun is the nursery school of running. So we're allowing people to come and find out whether they can actually complete 5 kilometers to begin with, and then find that they can run, and so on and so forth. And with our junior program, we're helping kids understand that running is as natural as riding a bike, or it's a tool that you've got, and they can get, and we can determine whether people are above average, and they can find their way into these elite sports and so on. So I think the fact that more and more people are coming who don't consider themselves runners at all means that more and more people are finding their way into athletics and into some form of well-being as well, and that's great. That's what it's about.
Wow, that is amazing, and really a sign that parkrun is for everyone. And
it is for everyone.
The slower the average time, the more for everyone it is.
Yeah, I mean, South Africa had a lot to do with that as well, because they were the first country to recognize walking was an important part of what we do. And so we've learned from them, and now it is regular part of parkrun is walking.
Yeah. Wow, no, that is incredible. Well, we're going to segue over to Steph with our coaching tip of the week.
My top tip today is for training in adverse running conditions. Whether you've got snow or ice, it's blowing a gale, there's horizontal rain, or it's baking hot, all these elements can adversely affect our running session. We can't bank on the weather being great for every run, or even on race day, so sometimes we have to just get on with it. The more that we can prepare physically and mentally, the better we'll feel on race day if something off the beaten track is thrown at us. On days like these, grab a friend for motivation, put on a good playlist, adjust your expectations, focus on the effort, and just get the session done. It will still count. Even if you haven't hit your exact pace targets, the effort will still get you faster and fitter.
Thank you so much for that, Steph. I'm going to bring us back with a question sent in for Paul from one of our listeners. As someone who has made running so accessible for so many, what would you say to someone who is feeling intimidated to just start?
Well, I'd love to speak to you, because there's no reason to be intimidated. I get it. Everybody knows that the hardest step of going for a run is putting your shoes on and opening that door, stepping out of the door. That's the hardest step. So that same feeling that you'll have when you just don't want to do something, or you feel it might not be for you, overcoming that is really important. Now, what I would say about how you do that is you don't have to commit to anything. You don't have to commit to finishing 5 kilometers. All you have to do is find a way to get into your local park on that morning. Then don't run, watch, see what the volunteers are doing, watch the people finishing, especially the slow runners, and you'll start to identify people just like you. And if you can see yourself in someone who's doing it, then I think you have a chance. You have a really good chance of doing it yourself. And what you'll notice is that it's really easy. It's simple. Everybody's loved. Everybody's cared for. We have people whose job it is to come last, so that there's no possibility you're ever going to be last. And yet I think you might just find yourself getting involved in a much more light-hearted way, in a much more friendly way. So you'll see. We have lots of cases where people don't want to run. They come down and volunteer, and then it takes 6, 7, 8, 9 weeks, and they think, okay, I can do it. And then they go and they do their first park run. And before you know it, they've joined a running club, they're running half marathons. It is amazing.
Yeah.
But your journey doesn't have to be like that. It can just be simply walking around a park on a Saturday morning, making friends, picking daisies. That's what it's about.
I think what you said about going to see the finish and seeing that there's such a variety of people, but I think also seeing the way that someone feels when they finish. And I think doing like, you can imagine it, the marathon, you finish it and you see it on the telly, you see it on social media, it's this great feeling. But the feeling is the same that you see on people's faces when they finish parkrun. There's a little sprint finish that happens, there's someone pushing that pram over the line, and they all feel the same way. And I think that's also what makes it such a great thing, is that everyone is doing the same thing, whether you are doing like you were when you started it, a 2:36 marathon runner, or whether you're doing a 45 or an hour's park run, you have still pushed yourself your hardest, potentially, for 5K.
I think that's right. I think that everybody's journey and everybody's goal is different. I'm more than happy finishing a park run now, 5K, because it is quite a big distance for me, given that I've got some issues. Whereas in the old days, a marathon was that target. Now 5K. And so I would say everybody has their own targets and everyone has their own demons, and achieving something that helps you overcome that is going to be euphoric.
And I think also if you can do something hard like 5K on a Saturday morning, you can get up early and you can go to work. You can have that hard conversation. You can do other hard things. Because I think you build the muscle of doing things.
This is the thing we don't really talk about very much, but you're absolutely right. I think that once you've started down this journey, you do learn how to work your way through other more difficult situations. And it's part of the journey that people who participate in sport learn to deal with. So it's a really good point.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, I've got some silly this or that's for you. For both of you, really. First one. Which is your favourite? New Year's Day park run or Christmas Day park run? You knew what I was going to say.
A million times. There's something extraordinary about Christmas Day park run. New Year's Day, people could be arriving thinking, okay, this is the start of a new year, and they're buoyed up and it's about getting it done. Christmas Day is never like that. Christmas Day is all about Christmas celebration, family, social interaction, and everybody's dressed up in Santa hats, and it's just fun. It's a festival.
Yeah.
Even if we still take it seriously, it is a festival and it's beautiful.
Ben?
I think they're, like you said, that they're the perfect distance apart. That means that they can both stack on a Saturday. It means that I'm always excited for a year when they're not on Saturday, so that you get the 4 park runs in quick succession. But trying to pick between that is impossible, because I actually had a really bad back injury, didn't run for October, November, December, let's say, and the New Year's Day one was my first one back, and that really set me on a good trajectory in 2024. So that was really meaningful for me. But I think at the same time, the Christmas Day one is fantastic. I've gone and dressed up, put my speaker in my backpack, and ran around with Christmas songs on. So it's hard to pick, but maybe I'd pick the Christmas Day with you as well.
Yeah, I'd do Christmas.
But I'm glad we don't have to pick.
No, we don't. You can do them both.
Yeah. No, like Christmas Day this year, I ran with family, which I haven't seen in years, and it just like kickstarts the whole like Christmas Day being like so connected, where that would never have happened if we hadn't have done parkrun. So.
I just have the challenge that I live in between like too many. So I'm having to fight to get like my friendship group and my family and then my sister's boyfriend's family all to the same park. Otherwise I have to pick which like part of my life is the most important. But so far I can somehow cajole them all in the right place if I plan from about the start of December.
Okay. Would you rather run or volunteer at parkrun?
I'd rather run. Running makes me happy.
Yeah.
It's something that I've done with reasonable amounts of success, and I enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy when my heart's just about to explode. It's a funny thing. I can do that when I'm running. I can't really do it for other things. I cycle a lot now, and it's an extraordinary experience. But I'm now arthritic, so I don't do much running, and I have to say I am enjoying the volunteering just as much as running. But you can't you can't balance those two. You can't just say it's okay, I'm a volunteer and it's all great. I miss the fact that I can't run.
Yeah, it must be so rewarding, volunteering. Okay, lastly, for both of you, you can only have one for the rest of your life after parkrun: coffee or cake.
Coffee.
Coffee.
What if it was a pastry?
I think I have about 5 coffees a day, and I don't have cake 5 times a day.
I'm not that bothered about pastry. I mean, yes, I'll always have one, but if I don't ever have another pastry in my life, it'll be fine.
Amazing.
What, you, Anya? You pastries then? You don't drink coffee?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay.
A lot. Maybe cake though. Often, I'll do parkrun as part of a long run, and I've had caffeine energy gels throughout that run.
Oh, then you don't
so I
want
want
coffee.
to refuel after, and I don't need any more caffeine. But yeah.
Yeah, post-run coffee is half the reason for going for the run sometimes. Wow, well, Paul, it's incredible to learn more about something that is such a big part of mine and so many of the people I care about's lives, and I think it is an incredible thing that you've started and built and put on a trajectory to continue to go on to change so many more people's lives. I hope you're very proud, and I look forward to Saturday morning and doing my next park run.
Brilliant. Thank you for having me. It's wonderful that runner are now a partner of parkrun, and hopefully more and more people will find it easier and easier to get to that start line.
Yeah, and I guess doing a through line is that parkrun is free, and that is because partly because you can make revenue from working with doing great partners, but at the same time parkrun's a charity, and anyone listening who genuinely loves it in the way that I think we all do here, you can donate to parkrun, and would really encourage people to do so, and that's what allows us all to get the experience that we get every week. Today's podcast is powered by Runna. Runna is the #1 rated running coaching service worldwide, and whatever your running goal, whether you're looking to do your first 5K, improve your time over the 10K, or even run a marathon or an ultramarathon, we'll build you the personalized training for you to help you get there and enjoy the process along the way. If you want to download the Runna app, you'll get 2 weeks for free with code podcast25. And if you're already a Runna customer, you can head to the premium offers section where we've got a 15% off discount for you off any of our Runna merchandise.
And if you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, subscribe. And if you loved it, give us a 5-star rating. And we'll be back next week with another inspiring guest. See you then.